Hey everyone, it's Shanel from Ardent, and we're here today to talk about frequently asked questions about the Nova. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look here at what we're asked most often and just run you through the best practices for the device. So the first thing that you should know is that before you get started, check out our guides. We have an infusion guide, we have a decarb guide, we have a dosing guide. Those are going to answer a lot of your nuanced questions about how to go through the process, whether it's the decarb process or the infusion process, or whether you're trying to get a more accurate dose. Make sure you use all the components of the device, no matter what you're doing with it, even if you're using our concentrate and infusion sleeve. So here are the device components. You're going to always want to use the inner container and the silicone lid. And here's just an example of how the sleeve goes in, and you absolutely still want to use the lid when you're using the sleeve. Always need all of the components. Hey everyone, it's Shanel. Welcome to the FAQs for our olive oil infusion kit. So if you have our olive oil infusion kit, you know it comes with two 2-ounce bottles of olive oil. It comes with our infusion sleeve, a screen, a funnel, and that's all you need to get started. So I want to talk for 1 minute about the oils. We get a lot of questions about where's our oil coming from? Where do we source it? So know that we have sourced the highest level of olive oil for you guys. I don't know if you're like me and have encountered olive oils before that are just super subpar. We went and found an award-winning Greek olive oil. Not only have we included their traditional estate variety olive oil, but we also have a black truffle olive oil. So this is made with natural black truffles, and it's going to give you such a decadent feel if you want to make, for example, infused truffle fries or plenty of other things. Truffle is a hot topic, and I don't know if you've ever tried black truffle before, but it is very delicious. So this infusion kit couldn't be easier. It's really as simple as pouring your oil into your sleeve. You can use one bottle, you can use both bottles, you can use a mix if you really want to get crazy. And then break up your cannabis or your flower material, your trim. Make sure you're decarbing first. You have to decarb before you infuse, so make sure that you do that. And also make sure that you're using all parts of the decarboxylator when you are activating and infusing. So always using the silicone sleeve and always using the lid. If you don't want to use the silicone sleeve, if you want to use a tempered glass jar instead, you can absolutely do that. So after you put your oil and your flour in here, or your concentrate, whatever you like, you can press the button, push it through an entire cycle, and when that cycle is done, the infusion cycle, you're just going to strain into the storage container of your choice, and it couldn't be simpler. You can use as little or as much as you want. Both bottles will fit in here to infuse, and you can dial up the potency. You can dial the potency up and down as much as you like, depending on how much starting material that you have in there. So I hope you enjoy, and if you have any questions, please reach out to our support team. This is just a really brief FAQ for some of the most frequently asked questions. If you want to see the actual demonstration of the coconut oil kit and the testing results, take a look above or go to our education section and learn more. So the coconut oil kit comes with 2 bottles. One is filled with coconut oil. It's only half filled because it is 1 ounce, half of the bottle. It gives you plenty of room to add your flour material to infuse. So yes, it should only be half full on this bottle. This is the bottle that you're going to use to infuse. You're going to take the lid off, and when you infuse, you are not going to use this lid. So put this lid aside, you're not going to need it again. You'll break up your flour in here, and then you'll put it right in the unit. You don't need anything else, just this jar, your flour, and you're on your way to making infused oil. So after you break up the flour and put it in here, there's a little stick here if you need to swirl it up. You can mix your flour in here even if the coconut oil is solid. Just mix it in there. When it starts heating up, it will all liquefy, and you'll be able to, it will mix in there, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you want to, you can run it under some hot water for half a minute, 30 seconds will liquefy it as well. So you're going to just put it in here, put it in the unit, close it up, and start the process. So it's going to be a whole cycle, not half a cycle, another cycle for the infusion process. And when it's done, we're going to stop the cycle here. Did you guys know you could stop the cycle if you need to? Just keep holding the button down again. About 10-15 seconds, it turns green. It's only an emergency, but it's good to know. So when it comes out, you'll see the cannabis will be on the bottom. It'll have settled a little bit. You're going to take your storage jar. It's the one with the thin neck. You're going to put the funnel and the screen. Screen goes on top. And then you're going to pour out, and then you're going to have infused oil. So we often get questions about dialing the potency up and down. Definitely check out our dosing guide in the education section. We usually use about 1 gram of flour to the 1 ounce of oil. So in all of our testing, you can see some consistency there, and to show you just how much you can get only with just a little bit of flour. If you want a more potent oil, just use more flour in the beginning. We get a lot of questions about whether or not you can run the oil twice to get more potent. You don't want to run the oil again. It's already infused. If you want to make a more potent oil, just start with more cannabis at the beginning. Now, there is a little bit of material left in the flour, right? If we're getting close to 90%, over 85% infusion, that means there's still a little bit left in the flour. So if you want to, you could take a little bit of fresh oil, put it in with your raffinate, and run it again, and then mix it with your oil. But don't run your infused oil twice. No need for that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this FAQs. If there's any additional questions that you have, you can always reach out to our support team at support@ardentcannabis.com. And happy decarbing and infusing. So when you're decarbing, whether it's herb or concentrate, you don't want to stuff the material in. You can fill it all the way to the top, but don't pack it down. A lot of people are nervous if they're just starting out and they kind of wonder, can they start just a teeny bit at a time? And the answer is absolutely yes. There's no minimum to the amount that you can put in. Really, you can start off with even scraps that are laying around from the joint or the bowl that you just rolled or packed. It really just as simple as using a tiny bit, and you can get a lot out of it. So experiment and play around, and don't be worried because you do have that capacity to create anything that you want. So the range is anywhere from 1 hour and 45 minutes to a little over 2 hours. It shouldn't run more than 2.5 hours. So remember that there's a range of time, that it's heavily dependent on the material you put in, how much you put in, what temperature it was, and then we have these 2 sensors that are working and the algorithm working during the process. So understand that there's going to be a range of time. The decarb process is not going to be exactly the same every time, but if you are running over 2.5 hours, please just reach out to our support team. It's support@ardentcannabis.com. Couldn't be easier, and they will get back to you if you have any questions. Also, make sure to check out all of our decarb guides and infusion guides, because that has a lot of the answers to the questions that might come up. The other thing you should know is that you should always be running the unit inside. It's not made for outdoors. It needs to be at ambient temperatures to work properly. Make sure that you're letting the unit cool down in between cycles. You should let it cool down between 15 or 20 minutes between cycles. And do not peak. No opening it during the cycle. There's a lot of fancy stuff going on in there, and you want to make sure that you're not interrupting the cycle at all. You might notice some condensation on the lid when you're decarbing after you've decarbed, and that's totally normal. The condensation and the release of the CO2 creating water vapor is absolutely part of the process, so don't worry about that. The first and foremost question people have is, what can you decarb in the Nova? And you can decarb any starting material that you can think of. Now that's flour, trim, keef, concentrate, and under concentrate, that's a big category that includes things like rosin and keef and BHO and wax and RSO. There are only a few different concentrates that don't need to be decarbed, and that's very, very highly processed concentrates like distillate. You don't need to decarb those, but everything else needs to be activated. Another huge question is, won't the cannabis or will the cannabis decarb while I'm infusing? A lot of people want to skip the decarb step and go right to the infusion step, thinking that the heat is going to activate both and infuse. And that's not the case. So check out our education section. You'll see more information on this, and we're going to be doing more videos on it because it is a big question. But it is a separate decarb step and infusion step. If you just mix your flour with your oil and put it in the decarboxylator, what will come out will be very, very high THCA, non-active material. So if that's what you're looking for, you can absolutely infuse and get a high THCA oil. But if you're looking for an activated oil, you definitely need to decarb before you infuse. Decarbing concentrates is another big question. What's the best way to decarb concentrates? And you can decarb right in the unit. Often people use parchment paper. What you don't want is the concentrate to stick on the bottom of the container. So we developed this silicone sleeve. A lot of you have been asking for it for quite some time. It just slides right in, and you can put your keef and your concentrate in here. You can even decarb your flour in here as well. So check out our education section, and you can see that you can also decarb the flour, get great results that way as well. Or you can just use the metal container and parchment or a tempered glass jar or something like that. But know that this concentrate and infusion sleeve is really easy. You can pop out your concentrate after. It can go in the freezer or fridge to help harden up your waxes and concentrates after you decarb them, make them easier to handle. Big question. What about CBD? Again, I'm going to keep pushing you guys to the education section because I'm giving a brief overview of the questions and answers right now. But if you want to see more testing results and more nuanced discussions, keep an eye on our education section or make sure you're signed up for our email list because that's where you're going to get a lot of the detailed information, the testing results to back up the things that I'm telling you here on the FAQs. So CBD is a huge question. It's exploding in popularity across the country and the globe. And a lot of people are asking about, what about decarbing CBD? And absolutely, you can decarb CBD in the unit. CBD is a little bit different than THC. And it really depends on what the composition of your material is that you put in there. If you're using a strain that has some THC in it, so more than 1% THC in addition, or THCA in addition to the CBDA, then you just do one cycle with the Nova. If you're using a purely CBDA strain, right, no THC at all, less than 1%, then you can run it twice in the unit to get the best results. You'll still get really good results through the first run, but if you want to crank out as much possible CBD, then you can run it through twice. And check out our education section. You'll see detailed discussions and results on both the 1 run and the 2 run of the CBD testing. A lot of people wonder why the edibles that they make with the decarboxylator sometimes feel different than the edibles that they make in the oven. And this is a pretty nuanced scientific type of question, but a lot of people are used to making edibles and getting an incredibly heavy and groggy feeling. And what we found when testing those edibles is that often they have a lot of CBN in them. And that often happens as a result of over decarbing and creating CBN, which is different than CBD, right? It's CBN at the end rather than the D. And what it is, it's a degraded form of THC that can actually make you feel more heavy and groggy. And so understand that with just one use and run of the Nova, you're not creating a lot of CBN, right? You're getting full activation without getting that destruction and loss. And so you might notice a different, more clean feeling when you're taking your edibles. And so that's something also to think about. If you'd like to create more CBN in the process, you can run the decarboxylator twice. You can also create CBN by decarbing first and then smoking or vaporizing your bud. The higher the temperature, the more CBN that you're going to create. We get asked about smell. One of the best things about the unit is the lack of smell. We made this to be discreet, and you notice it closes in here with the silicone lid, and the unit is designed to be odorless. So if you are experiencing any smell, please reach out to our support team and we can help out with that. We've had a few people reach out saying that their sleeve was stuck inside. And don't worry, just let it cool down a little bit. You're probably trying to take it out when it's really hot. Just let it cool down for a couple moments and it will release there. Sometimes metal expands when it heats, and the metal cup could be a little bit tight around the sleeve. Big question we get, more and more we've been getting this question. It's about using alcohol in the sleeve. People want to activate their flour and then use an alcohol wash to create a tincture. You should not use alcohol in the device. First of all, alcohol is a very strong solvent on its own. You do not need heat with alcohol in order to strip the cannabinoids into the solvent. Check out our education section. You can learn more about the difference between heating with oil and infusing and cold extraction infusion with alcohol. And often, though, people want to take that alcohol tincture and evaporate the alcohol off so they have more of a concentrate at the end. Understanding that doing that well would really require you to run the unit with the top open. You are not supposed to do that. Again, remember there are sensors in there. It's a very, it's a high-tech unit with multiple sensors. The closed environment is very important, so do not run the unit open with alcohol. Again, you don't need heat in order to make an alcohol infusion. So we'll be following up with more videos about that and testing results, so please keep an eye out for that. So that's it for our FAQs today, but something tells me we'll be back really soon with more questions and answers for you about decarb infusion and how to get the most out of your cannabis all day, every day.